He's the CEO of Louken Group, doing branding, internationalization. But Haoming himself, he's a business futurist, brand strategist. Under his group, Louken, they represent big brands like Bread Talk, Charles and Keith. Haoming himself has been a partner in Hugs Coffee, and during the pandemic, he actually helped scale that. And he also sits together with me and serves with mentoring SG. That's his real give back and passion. So at this point in time, help me give a digital applause to Lee Haoming. Over to you, Haoming.
Thank you, Glenn, and also thanks for the introduction. Like what Glenn shared, yes, currently right now I'm spearheading Louken Group. That was just after in early 2023, after I sold off my business or my part of the business in Hugs Coffee, which it was a tough time during the pandemic, especially when you're doing F&B, right? So I can share some of these insights later on how we actually pivot and adapt, and as well as not just sustain the business, but how do we scale during such a terrible time, right? And then before that, before the pandemic, I also exited from another business as well. It was completely different. It's not even in F&B or whatsoever, or what I'm doing. It's in lifestyle events. So lifestyle events, I think you guys might be thinking, what do you mean by that? So I used to run like events like Artbox, Chingay, Singapore Night Festival, I Like Marina Bay. So Artbox is actually something that I brought in together with a couple of people from Bangkok, from Thailand, and did that for quite a number of years. And then of course then exited that. So just that's a quick background about myself. Of course, right now I think one of the things that Glenn shared is that I'm also doing mentoring, which I thought that it's a very meaningful way to pay it forward and to help others, and also to nurture the next generation, right? So a little bit about Louken, just so that you get a bit of background context to what we do. So this is our 25th year actually, so quite long already, since the year 2000, right? So we start off as a brand agency. So a lot of brands that you see today, especially like Singapore brands, right? They are branded by us. So like your Charles and Keith, your Bread Talk, your Paradise, your Songfa, your Jumbo, Putian, and so on and so forth, TWG, and it's, basically I would say if you walk down Orchard, you see a Singapore brand, there's a good chance that we have done the branding for them. But we didn't just stop there, right? Because the working relationship with all these clients and partners were so good that they were asking us, how can we further build or scale their venture up with them? So we went on to even translate those brand strategy into business strategy, right? Like business modeling. So such as like franchise modeling, distribution modeling, or even licensing. So if you see like Bread Talk in China, for example, so we did their franchise model, and then we brought them to China. We entered China and opened an office together with them, and then we expanded them in China. And this was like 15 years ago. So all these brands that we talk about is like when Charles and Key only had one store in Singapore, when Paradise only had two store, and then we created that seven color xiao long bao that some of you might be familiar with. So all these things were done by us, right? But franchise business modeling is one part of it. Of course, then we move on to helping all this business to internationalize, because growing in domestic market is really just a phase in a business journey. And then of course then you start to look into other markets as well. More often than not, most people will think that like how difficult can it be to expand overseas, right? It's just bringing your goods over and then selling them, or setting up a regional office or online presence. It must be quite easy, but I can assure you it is very much not the case. So we've done quite a lot of this, which I can share more examples in a while, right? So over the years, I think we evolved quite a bit. We started investing into companies as well. So today, if you look on our website and all that, you could see that we position ourselves as a venture builder, because there's three things that we look at. We look at transforming businesses. We look at venturing with business in other words, investing in them. We created a accelerator program as well to help businesses to scale overseas. And lastly, we look into trade, which is a very big topic as well for this year, because of so many trade tensions that's happening in the world as well, which will affect the business outlook for many businesses in 2025, right? So I think I'll just start off with just the global landscape first, right? We look at the biggest picture first, and then we'll start to scale it down to focusing on to Asia, and then looking at Singapore as well, and then looking at how can we actually use some of these challenges that we've identified, and then turn that into opportunities, right? So at the global landscape itself, right, in 2025, the economy is projected to grow at a quite a modest pace, to be honest, 2.9% to 3.1%. I mean, this to be it does reflect resilience. There's a lot of ongoing challenge like geopolitical tension, like I mentioned, inflation is still ongoing as well. Geopolitical sides such as like China with US, and when powerhouses like that, or big companies, big countries like that have tension, it often just affect all economies, including us as well. Even though we may think that that is their country's problem, right? It's got nothing to do with us, but it trickle down to all our economy as well. So I think one of the key opportunities still lies in technological revolution, especially AI. I think Glenn's very well put it that we all have to look at digitalization, right? Because we do live in the era of the digital era itself, right? I'm sure all of us, the minute we open our eyes or all the way till we close our eyes, the last thing you look at is probably your phone. So it's we live in this digital era that we can't ignore unless you're in somewhere right now calling in from a mountains or a cave or something. But if not, all of us are in touch and tune with technology. So this is transforming industry from healthcare to manufacturing. Like if you look at healthcare itself, there's a lot of AI-driven solutions like robotic surgery, predictive diagnostics. All these things are gaining a lot of momentum. And another area which I think Glenn shared as well, sustainability, right? It's such a big word, right? Because it's not just about environment, it's also social as well, and so on and so forth, even economic. But clean energy is something that I think a lot of people are talking about it over the last few years, right? Especially with electric vehicle becoming more and more a common topic, or you see a lot of that on the roads itself. If you go to China today, you can find that the roads are pretty quiet. It's not like Singapore, only because most cars and bikes and all that are already electric, right? So there's opportunity in this space as well into how then can we be in a business that complement such an industry or complement topics like clean energy, right? So like investment in like solar and wind energy, it's expected to outpace fossil fuel globally. That's for sure. Starting from this year, right? You look at Tesla's venture into large scale battery storage and so on. Those are just testaments to this shift into talking about renewable energy. Even neighboring countries, like my friends that are in Indonesia and so on, they're heavily investing into renewable energy. And it's not just about just wind or solar. Solar is something that people talks a lot about. Even hydro energy is something that is gaining momentum in terms of a new type of energy as well. Right. So then we have global consumer trends as well shifting. So e-commerce giants like, I mean, you look at your Amazon, your Alibaba, your Shopee, and these players are actually setting different new standards with like drone deliveries nowadays, right? We may not see it in Singapore, but if you look into countries in China and so on, right, they're already testing such technology and they actually doing. When I say testing, it's not even back at the lab or what. They're already doing pilot testing to actual real life consumers already. A very rare personalized shopping experience even for online as well, right? Nowadays, if you go into such platforms, they actually understand and learning your shopping behavior, the person that you are, and then every one of you actually have a different algorithm that they track so that they push the right products that you will be interested in and not waste your time looking at things that you probably not so keen about, right? So I think there's a lot of with all this trend shifting and all these opportunities happening, right? But businesses must prepare for a lot of potential risks, though. There's a lot of fluctuation in energy prices. If you look at the global market, there's the impact of also trade restrictions, right? We're not even talking about US or China and so on, with tariffs all coming in, possibly coming in, right? You look at just our neighbor like Indonesia, it's the trade policy there or the regulation, it's a whole new ball game itself. To understand such a complex market, you really take time to actually immerse yourself in it, right? It takes for us, it's like takes us years. We're there for 10 years already or so, helping like Songfa, for example, to enter into Indonesia, helping TWG to enter into Indonesia. If I'm sure you saw the news lately as well, even big companies like Apple, right, it's being stopped at the borders and being banned from entering into Indonesia due to certain regulatory or certain commitment that they haven't committed, right, and all that. But as of now, we are Louken is like helping some brands to enter into Indonesia, and we work very closely with the Ministry of Investment and trade as well. So all this understanding of market, right? When you do a business, right, it's important to look at the global landscape. Like a lot of times, I've spoken to aspiring entrepreneurs or startup founders. They would normally tell me, "Oh, but homie, my business is so small. Why do I need to care about what's happening on the other side of the world or outside of Singapore?" But like I said, there's a trickling effect. It's an entire ecosystem, and this ecosystem involves everyone. So it's important to always know what's the latest updates, the trends, what's the risks or challenges that other countries are facing. And then with that knowledge, it helps you to navigate through some of these challenges a lot more seamlessly, right? So then now I'll go into a little bit more relatable to maybe to all of us, right? Asia itself, right? So looking at Asia, actually it's very exciting for us, to be honest, for the next 5 years, I would say at least, right? It's projected to remain one of the world's fastest growing region, right? ASEAN economy itself is expected to really grow at 4.4%. And this is really driven by urbanization, rising middle class income. So I keep telling a lot of people that because we work with a lot of Western companies that's looking for opportunity to expand their business in the Southeast Asia. Of course, then they approach people like us because culturally the nuances in Asia itself or Southeast Asia, it's very different, right? And we may be actually quite a big region itself, but very fragmented because of all the different countries and the way we do certain things, and so on. And they often ask this question, is there buying power in Southeast Asia? And the truth is there is a massive buying power in Southeast Asia, not just Singapore. Okay, Singapore, I mean, it's a bit of a outlier in Southeast Asia because we're ahead of the curve and so on. We have an age of starting early, but actually the surrounding countries like your Thailand, your Vietnam, your Indonesia, the middle class income is rising rapidly. Right, I spend a lot of time in those countries, and truth is, these people actually can afford a lot of things more than Singaporeans. Sometimes I feel, right? So there's this massive rising middle class income that allows people to consume more because when you go from mass market and you enter into a new income bracket of, let's say, middle class, the first thing any consumer will do is buy stuff that they don't actually normally would have purchased as they don't see as essential before, but now they will want to have a different enhanced lifestyle or whatsoever, so they start consuming more. So that's something to look out for. Of course, technological adoption in Southeast Asia it's getting quite rapid. Pre-COVID itself, it was a bit slow in terms of adopting digitalization. I mean, pre-COVID, I mean, how many of us actually use QR payment? Right, because of COVID, we started doing contactless payment, and then we start understanding the usage of QR. Even though China was already using it for like years already, but only during COVID, then we use like what's that, safe entry? Yes, so long already. It's like, yeah, haven't heard the term, but safe entry we need to use QR and all that. So it's very becoming part and parcel of our life. So in Southeast Asia as well, I think digitalization has really speed up and accelerate the growth, especially in e-commerce industry, right? It's booming right now. It's been booming for a while already, but it's shifting into new standards, like I said. So in Vietnam, right, like companies like your Tiki, your Shopee, they are even enabling rural areas to access global products already, right? So this is giving people access. That's the interesting, but digitalization actually makes the world smaller, and makes the world actually spin faster. So it's a matter of when and not if ready, right? So often I always tell people that when you look at AI and all that, do not look at it with a mindset of like, oh, this is just a bubble, or it's going to take away people's job and so on. I think for as long as anyone can remember, right? The world is always evolving. Be it in the .com days where www the websites comes out, people also say the same thing. Oh, it's going to remove people's job and all that. But actually, it creates more job because it creates opportunity to be in such industry. It allows people to upskill themselves so that they don't need to do certain things that they used to do, but they do new stuff, right? So I think those are opportunities that we when we look at growth or evolution. So, but I think in Asia itself is it's good to note that actually China economy or the growth is going to slow down quite a bit this year. So that's something that will definitely affect all our economy. But also at the same time, because the economy is slowing down, and it hasn't fully recovered from COVID, and right now they a new virus, or kind of like people are all talking about, especially in China as well. A lot of the Chinese businesses are actually looking to expand out of China. For many years, they are very comfortable. I mean, the market is so big. There's really don't need to go to any other market. I think if you can conquer China's market, you would probably have more than enough for generations. But I think because of this slowdown in their growth, a lot of the Chinese businesses are looking to expand out, and they're looking at Southeast Asia because, firstly, a lot more relatable to them in some ways. Language barriers might not be as difficult. So we're bound to see a lot of Chinese businesses coming to Singapore. I mean, you've seen some of this already in the last couple of years, but there will be more and more coming through, which is good for Singapore to a certain extent because this is bringing new businesses, new technology to our shores as well, right? So that brings opportunity again to Southeast Asia. But markets like India is crazy right now, expected to grow over 6% annually. The electric vehicle market is projected to reach like 7 billion easily in this year. But of course, this is with government incentives and private investment, right? So we often I also share this with a lot of my fellow entrepreneurs as well. Like when you're in business, you have to understand politics to a certain extent, right? You have to look into that sector. Not because we want to be political. It's never that. It's always commercial. But if you understand, let's say, a macro model like PESTLE, right? The which the P stands for politics. So that's something that at a macro level, it's always good for businesses to understand the policy that's going on, the trade agreement that's going on. So businesses definitely must consider regional trade agreements, right? Because looking at different agreements that simplify trade, open up markets across Asia, especially if you're looking at expanding into new markets. With the with certain trade agreement, it allows you certain ease of entering markets, and that means that you probably have to spend less in terms of resources, right? So it's about selecting the right markets. It's the right time. Not so much about there's a right market or wrong market. All markets have equal opportunity. To be honest, it's just that it's about timing, right? So certain markets, if you go into it at the wrong timing, then it seems like you are in the wrong market, but it's not true. All markets are the same, equal opportunity for everyone, right? Including Singapore. Everyone always say that Singapore is such a small market. Yeah, but there are good stuff that's happening, or there's some advantage to be in here as well, right? So Asia's economy, basically the digital economy, will continue to grow. Mobile payments and all that, like platforms like Alipay, and all that is becoming such a norm already. So we definitely will be seeing a lot of digitalization this year, more so than ever, with the AI really starting to pick up pace already, and most people also getting more used to using, like I'm sure you guys might have already used ChatGPT on your daily for your work, or so and so forth, right? Also, sustainability practices will be a more and more common topic among businesses as well. So that's some of the trends that are going on. It's not going to go away. So a lot of times people ask me, is this just a short-lived kind of trend, or is this something to stay? And I can safely say, if you talk about digitalization, you talk about sustainability, all this are going to stay. It's not going to go anywhere. So it's definitely to get in early, to understand it well, do more research on it, and then so that when the time comes, you will know how to actually integrate such practices into your business as well, right? So for example, if we know every business right now is looking at ESG framework, right? Environment, social governance framework, then I think this is like something I'm not sure I shared with Glenn when I spoke with him, but when I speak to some friends and all that, I'll often say, if every other company is looking at social impact and ESG framework, then doesn't that make most company in 20 years time philanthropical in nature? So if we understand that if every company is going to be somewhat philanthropical in nature in 10, 20 years time, then what kind of business can I do today to help make that actually happen in a more seamless manner? Because when you say adopting frameworks and so on, it's a new thing, right? For businesses, not all business have a sustainability practice in place before, and so on. So All these things are pain points that business will have because now it's a requirement. If you want to get an investment, do you actually have an ESG framework? If you don't, then you most likely have a lower chance of getting an investment, for example. So that's a pain point. When there's a pain point, means a solution is needed. And when we talk about solution, it means business, right, to a certain extent. Because at the end of the day, business to me is very easily defined by simply value creation. If you are not truly creating value for an audience, or to basically to your target audience or to society, why would anyone exchange value with you? Their value is of course in monetary terms, in dollar and cents, but um, and why would they exchange that value with you as a company, right? So it's always about the thought of value creation. We don't talk about price, we don't talk about how much this costs and all that, to be honest. When we look in business, right, so many businesses that I've done or even consulted, we often dig deep into their business, we deep dive in their business and in search of this one thing, this one word called value, and we often call it, we name it at UCCA, lah, or which is like unique core competitive advantage. That one true core value that you have that maybe it's above, it's a bit more unique and exclusive to yourself rather than others. That's also goes down to barrier entry as well, for example. Right. So for example, if you might ask Louken Group, what's our barrier entry? One natural barrier entry is that we're 25 years old of 25 years of track record. That's something that you can't buy, right? That's a big barrier entry, right? So for someone that wants to come into the same industry and do the exact same thing as us, you won't be able to buy 25 years of track record. So that's natural barrier entry. But of course, then there are certain defensibility that a business can create to actually make sure that they're competitive as compared to others. Those are then, of course, then it's business strategy, right? So then I'll just move on a little bit also as well to right here at our country itself, looking at Singapore's business landscape, and to understand what we could possibly do to stand out or to navigate just our country's landscape, right, for this year. So I mean, Singapore continues to stand out as a hub for advanced manufacturing, fintech, green energy. I think as a country with not much land resource or natural resource, naturally we look at technology as one part of our focus point, right? GDP growth is forecasted at 1 to 3%. It's very modest again. Um, it's our economy, to be honest, because of the policies that we have in place and so on, it does remain quite resilient as compared to some other countries and so on, even though with all this uncertainty happening in the global landscape side. Right, so you look at just fintech, right? Singapore is home to like over 1,400, close to 2,000 fintech companies, right? But it's supported by initiatives, or policies out there that such as like financial services industry transformation map. It's a long name, the initiative, but these are areas where you are able to tap into for incentives like grants and whatsoever to kickstart your business and so on, right? So we look at like even sustainability, back to that again, right? Because it's even though we hear this word a lot over the last, I don't know, more than 5 years already, to be honest. Ever since the video of the video of the turtle in the sea turtle with the plastic straw stuck in the nose surfaced, like I would say, what, 8 years, 10 years ago. Everyone talks about sustainability, but I think, like I said, it's a big word. It's way more than just environment. It's way more than just climate. I was just telling Glenn, the next few days, this monsoon surge is actually all part of flash flooding and all that's all effects of climate change, right? So that's why I think if some of you may or may not know about this, or heard about this, in Singapore, the government does have this Green Plan 2030, right? So what's this plan about is that it highlights the commitment to sustainability. So definitely go and have a look at this Green Plan 2030 and what's it about, and try to understand what's the goals and objective of it. So if your business happen to fall within the sustainability industry or that route, or you're trying to integrate certain ESG framework or practices into your business, go have a look at this green plan, because once you align with certain national agenda, there's also opportunities there to be tapped into. Right. Consumer trends in Singapore definitely evolving also as well. I mean, rise of health conscious living. I think Glenn spoke quite a bit about this as well, about health and wellness. He's completely right about this, especially after COVID, right? More and more individuals are very aware of their health, because of the pandemic, right? This topic has been going on for a few years now already. So with health conscious living on the rise, right, it's definitely driving demand for alternative food, fitness or fitness tech. All this are a big shift, to be honest. So when on our end, even in Loken itself, like I said, we invest in companies and all that, and the companies that are well focused or investment mandate is at, right, starting from last year, was in this thing what we call the well-being economy. So we created this venture vessel lah. Basically, a vessel means that a ship, right? A vehicle, and this is where we put we scout for businesses that has synergy. And then we place them into this vessel, and then we invest into them like a vehicle. But the focus of this vessel is basically the well-being vessel, well-being economy, right? So we call it the well-being vessel, lah. So what that means is basically, I didn't say wellness. So there's a big difference, well-being and wellness. And well-being covers a broader scope there. So we look into basically how we define is businesses that supplement life and sustain life, right? And that sounds very vague, but basically we look at industry like food resilience, food security, health, healthcare, pharmaceutical, skincare, supplements, business, food manufacturing, even stem cell technology. All these are businesses that we are looking into, doing our due diligence and actually investing. So over the next few months, you guys might see some news online about how Logan is investing in the stem cell company, investing into a fish company, a salmon fish company, because it's all about that one is about food security, right? And then investing into things like sustainable packaging, looking into things like skincare, pharmaceutical like supplements, and also reason being is because more and more it's not just about COVID, right? COVID created this rise and demand in health conscious living. But it's not again, it's not a bubble or just a short-lived trend. It's not your one of those TikTok trend or whatsoever. What COVID did was created awareness, right? It's about the consciousness of the mind, right? For all of us as individuals, as human being, right? It's just like people will say that like, but pre-COVID or back in parents' day, grandparents' day, they didn't, they still could survive and live their life without doing certain things. Why do we need it now? The fact of the matter is, it's about consciousness of the mind. Right? Once the mind or humans are conscious about certain things, they are aware, then there will be a lifestyle shift naturally, right? And because of the pandemic, I think that itself, right, created um awareness in the consciousness for most people, and with that, right, itself, the lifestyle has shifted. The way they view value has shifted as well. The value perception for most people has shifted, and so people this is something I also share quite a bit with in talks or even with among focus group or of just friends and all that, is that we talk a lot about currency, right? I mean, and then I'm sure some of you have definitely have heard of this social currency, but that is a currency that is already over, in our opinion. In my opinion, in Loken's opinion. So social currency is something that was very talked about pre-COVID, and so on. And what that means is basically people were willing to value social status, right? For example, doing social media content, getting followership, getting likes, getting comments, building up your status in the social realm, and that was value. People view that as value, and because when people start viewing that as value, businesses were paying social media content creators to do marketing, for example, right? So that was social currency. But if you ask me today, what's the currency? I would say it's not social currency so much anymore. We coined this thing, we call it the consciousness currency. And what that means is that people are again, like I said, because they are more aware, they are more conscious about their environment, themselves, the current affairs. I mean, the world is so small today because of social media that you could actually see what's happening in the war in Israel or Gaza or in Ukraine and Russia. You could literally watch. I mean, you can see on TikTok sometime before they even pull it down that an area is being bombed, for example. It's becoming that small and accessible, right? Like so, people are getting more and more aware. And to put it in context, what that means in consciousness currency, right? I'll put it in a very relatable example. I do a lot of interviews with to hire talents or talent acquisition, right? So I mean, I also a lot of friends that are running their own businesses, and we all share the same sentiments. People value things very differently nowadays. They will ask you things like, does this job or this role allows you to have hybrid working, for example, work from home or work from office? They ask questions like that. I mean, pre-COVID, who ever asked this question? Nobody ever asked like, is it a work from office or work from home? This question is never in talk about, right? Because by default, it's work from office. All right, but now people will ask because it may be a work from home, it may be a hybrid. You see, like I said, now the mind is aware, the mind is conscious about it. So when they're conscious about it, they shift in the lifestyle. Shift in the lifestyle, they taste of new value. Taste of new value, their value perception shift. Value perception shift means currency will shift, right? Because that's where you place your value at. Is we call it currency, right? So people would actually take a lower pay, they're okay to take a maybe less ideal package if they're allowed to work from home. So that in other words, that's equating to value. They're willing to trade value for that, right? So this is something relatable to example to share what do you mean by consciousness currency. So there's a shift already in the way people think, in the way people view value as well, right? But so I think coming back to Singapore's landscape, right? It's going to be quite exciting because with a lot of eyes from around the world looking at Southeast Asia as a place to expand into, because with the global the trend being a downward trend this year, uh, to de-risk and mitigate risk, right? Basically, expansion to Southeast Asia, it's actually one of the strategic move itself because we on our side, like I said, it's one of fastest growing region, right? There's a lot of potential here to grow because we are not as advanced, for example, the neighboring countries, maybe 5 years ago, not advanced as say some of the first world countries and so on. So there's a gap there to then to tap into, right? So then what that means for Singapore is that because Singapore is actually a very strategic hub itself, because of location and their very robust kind of infrastructure, it makes us a very ideal springboard for regional expansion. So it's almost like people set up their regional HQ here and so on. So like this is something we've been doing for companies. Chinese company wanting to expand down to Southeast Asia, European companies want to come into Southeast Asia, they need to localize first, but they do need a base. So they normally set up their holdings in Singapore, shift their IP, their intellectual property strategy to Singapore to house it here because our business law here is very favorable and welcoming to international or foreign businesses. So it's part of the strategy to do that, and we're doing a lot for international business to do so. Setting up an office here doesn't mean that this is the market that they are operating heavily in, right? They set up a base here and then they expand. They look at regional expansion, like Malaysia, Indonesia, and so on, right? Malaysia, I mean, now Johor JB is becoming part of Singapore in the sense of the special economic zone that EDB announced just like a few start earlier this week. Very strategic in a way because we don't have enough land. Singapore realized that they are losing their competitive edge to MNCs or global companies that may consider KL to be their base instead because overheads are way lower, rental is lower, manpower is lower. KL is not super far from Singapore at all. So Singapore was losing edge in terms of that, in terms of attracting new businesses to come through. So then they form this special economic zone with JB, right? And to create more land but it's still called Singapore JB, lah, but it's still Singapore. So allowing companies to actually set up some operations in JB, but still consider as one together with Singapore. That will lower a lot of costs and and rental and so on. It makes a lot of sense. Right. So all these are all strategic reason and so on. So that's on Singapore side. I'll move. I think I've shared more about, take a pause here for a bit just to recap some of the things. So global, we have looked into global, we look at regional, we look at Asia itself, and then of course Singapore. Uh, it all sounds exciting. It also sounds quite daunting to a certain extent. So then the question comes to how do we then thrive in such a dynamic environment, right? So let's just share some quick points, lah. 4 points to be exact. So I mean, in order to thrive in 2025, businesses definitely need to focus on these key 4 points that I feel. So like agility, sustainability, digital transformation, and partnerships. Okay, so agility is about adapting quickly to market changes, right? I think in businesses, it's always evolving. It's never stagnant. It's always changing. That's the nature of business, right? Whether you like it or not. If you don't like it, then better not do business. I mean, this is my advice because it's always shifting, and you must be on your toes to shift with it, and must be able to forecast. And forecasting is based on research and knowledge and so on, right? So that's why I shared a lot about keeping up to the latest news and trends, right? And even the brand itself must be agile. A business itself or brand must be agile, like I said. So what that means is that even why do 25 years already, for Louken, we start off, like I said, as a brand agency. Why do some of these brands that we did 20 years ago are still our client today? Because you might be thinking, branding, isn't it do one time? Actually not true. Branding is an everyday thing. It's because a business or a brand is a living thing. I mean, I view it that way, right? Because all businesses uh, are living only because of it's run by humans. It's run by living things. So then, and we live in a living ecosystem. So all businesses, to me, I view it as an extension of the people within it, and therefore that vehicle itself, that business, all business are living, right? So then, it's always evolving. Then it's always growing. Mindset is shifting and so on and so forth. So for so many years, I mean, like we have clients that with us for 10, 20 years. Ever working on their brand, making sure that they're consistent, making sure that they shift with the trend, making sure that the positioning of their business is catching the right wind, right, at the right time. Like I said, there's opportunities are equal actually, right? If all remains the same, right? If all remain the same across the world, which is in a perfect economy, which if you look at economics, there's such thing, but it doesn't exist. It's a very ideal way of looking at things like a perfect economy. Then sure, actually, all most opportunity I would say is equal. But it's all about timing. So it's about positioning yourself in the right place in the right time to catch then the right win. All right. So then it seems like, how come, how come I can move faster now? Because I'm sure maybe you guys have friends and all that running business yourself as well. And you somebody might see that, two businesses, same industry, same nature of business, but one is accelerating faster than the other. It's like a sailboat, right? If you're not putting a sail in the right direction, both boats can be the same model, same captain steering it with same skill set, but the sail is pointing the wrong way. One boat will just go faster than the other. It's as simple as that, right? Again, it's a vehicle, it's a vessel, right? So agility, important. Sustainability as well, not just a buzzword, it's a necessity. Like I said, I think most people really have to start taking this seriously, start to look into impact, right? Value and impact is important, right? So to me, it's almost on the same equation. Whatever value you're trying to create for business, because it's business equals to value creation, then that value itself it equates to impact as well. So like, what impact are you really trying to create here in this world? And if it's about social, it's about environment, it's about, let's say, even in economic, what is it that you're trying to do here that is truly unique, right? And then of course, digital transformation. I think all businesses should look into this. It's not necessarily have to be AI, but even as simple things as using certain tools or solutions, like even Zara, for example, right? The clothing brand. Zara use AI powered inventory systems, right? That actually just ensures them to have efficient stock management and reduce waste. When things are more efficient, it becomes a lot more effective. You don't have to use as much time and resource to actually do something. More importantly, when we say reduce waste, is extremely important. It's not just waste for environment. I'm talking about waste in resource. More often than not, once when something is not efficient, the operation is not efficient for a business, you spend a lot of time fixing it, and fixing something is always worse off than getting it right from the start. So this is also something we always tell the clients and all that. We will always ask, wow, I need to spend like 100, 200,000 to do up a business centric brand transformation. And then they will always ask, is it worth it? What's the ROI? If you got to ask yourself this, down the road when you start off on the wrong foot and you tangle up that ball or that thread into a ball of knots, then you probably have to spend more time and resource and money trying to fix all of those. It's a lot worse off, to be honest. It's like if you're going out for a run or going out to go to MacRitchie to do a trekking, spending 5 minutes to just select your the right outfit, tying your shoelace will prevent you from tripping up a lot more later on when you go out and and do a run. Because to be honest, it's running a business is like a marathon, and I see a lot of people trip because they are so eager to earn their first dollar, they forget to set their position right, they forget to really draw up what are they really selling, right? So end up most businesses are very product driven. They say that I have this product, therefore my business equal this product, in my opinion, I think it's completely in the wrong way of thinking. A business should never be product driven. It should be value driven, purpose driven. Products are just concepts, and so it's not real, right? I mean, it's concept it can be changed, it can be cancelled, it can be shifted. So those are concepts that's why it's called a concept. So all products, tangible or not, are just concepts. But what shouldn't change is the purpose, the value, and so on and so forth. So business is really not product driven. It's just that products are concepts that allow you to as a medium to deliver that value that you're trying to um, bring across to your audience. So whatever value you have is translated into your product, this concept, and then this concept or this product is then used as a medium to allow the consumer, the end consumer, to understand what you're trying to add value to their life. That's actually, I mean, but that's a very simplified way of me breaking it down, lah. Okay, and so lastly, I think the basically I say there's 4 points, right? The last point is partnership. Partnership is extremely crucial. Collaboration, is so important in today's world. You can't do everything yourself. It's always important to look for the right partners, not just in individuals, but even business, strategic partners, creating ecosystem, making sure there's synergy among each other. But partnership is not as easy as you say, because to be honest, anybody can be a partner. I mean, anybody can partner with anybody. To be honest, and I've seen a lot of partnerships that I feel it's it's really not much point to it, but then they force a partnership out of it, right? So partnership is not so straightforward. That's why even for us, we as a consultant, as part of one of our consultancy in terms of strategy, we have partnership strategy, right, as one of those topics that we do as Louken, right? So it's not as straightforward as it is. In this year itself, you'll see a lot of M&A happening. M&A meaning merger and acquisition. You already start seeing that, like big Titan companies like Honda and Nissan announcing that they will merge. I mean, that's unprecedented. You mentioned it's like Apple and Samsung coming together and saying that we'll merge. That is like insane, right? Honda, Nissan, and then now Mitsubishi. Toyota is on its own realm lah. So no, that's like it's like that's another planet on its own already. So, but this itself it's a very clear sign that there is a need for partnership. There's a need for companies to come together to to actually navigate through some of the new challenges or the new norms that's happening now that COVID is kind of over for the last 2 years, right? So and I would say that just for a bonus point, because we say we got 4 points, right? A bonus point, last one is to invest in talent development. Um, Because earlier on I said all businesses and brands are, to me, a brand is a living thing, a business is a living thing because of its people. Without humans, without people, uh, a company is just a empty shell. A logo is just some words on the wall. It doesn't mean anything. So invest in talent, people. It's extremely important, and equip the people with the right tools, like digital tools and so on, that will help them bring the best potential out of them. Right. This is extremely important. So I think that's some of the things that I looked at in 2025. I think I've shared quite a bit.
Wow.
Not sure whether
No,
how's
no, it seems like we all just sat through your 45-minute consultation, man. It's a business consultation, nothing short of